Our lives are just full of distractions, but I think everyone can agree that a sound or a song is very evocative. It transports you to a place or a time, or a call to action. It's nuanced, it's personal, it's sensory, and it's extremely persuasive. It's why brands are exploring and investing in a more holistic approach to music and sound, and one of the reasons why AI's soul is evolving to feel more human and intuitive. For most of the early part of my career, the industry had a more formulaic approach to custom music. And there was an attitude that unless a concept or a budget was enormous, you probably wouldn't even consider partnering with a notable recording artist for a project. But pandemic shifted everything. So with the rise of social media, in particular TikTok, because of its sound-on immersive experience, a new era of entertainment was ushered in. There was a sort of democratization of advertising, which inverted best practices and meant music and sound took center stage. And brand partnerships became more important than ever to the careers of recording artists at all levels, who now looked to brands that aligned with their ethos or aesthetic. So the topics today, I'm going to center them around custom music. I will say that sync and licensing music is equally important. You've got brands like Apple really leading the way, but that sort of is a whole topic in itself. So I'm focusing very much on the collaborations between major and emerging recording artists and brands, and how these partnerships can sometimes reverberate in culture in outsized and surprising ways. So the three topics. Firstly, I'm going to give a brief overview of artist-brand partnerships, since a very iconic one I'll show in a second. Then I'm going to look at how brands invest in artist partnerships to reach wider communities through existing fan bases and add that all-important pop culture element, which has become sort of key for 360 campaigns. And lastly, I will say a few things about how brands are creating and collaborating with emerging AI tools and whether the robots are coming for us all. Right. So music legend Bono shares how music can change the world because it can change people, which I think is true. Let's look at some ways that it has. So in a very iconic spot, I'm sure everyone in this room knows the iconic Hillside Coca-Cola spot from 1971, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I started here because, as you'll see through my talk, there's a real full circle moment in terms of what the messaging and conceit of this particular spot created in pop culture. So it featured a diverse group of young people from around the world singing together on a hilltop. The concept emerged from a desire to create a message of unity and harmony during a period of social and political turmoil. And the song became so popular that its creators revised it to a full-length version of the song with a pop group, the New Seekers. And it became a huge hit in the UK and the US, charting at number 13 on Billboard. There you go, I'll give you that.
I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. I like to ride the world of folk and keep it company. That's the real.
So the ad broke with tradition in so many ways. It became a cultural phenomenon and it inspired countless parodies, adaptations, and references in popular culture. And then in the following years, you'll see that there was a slew of sort of A-list celeb endorsements with their hits. So you'd hear like their sort of, I think it was Madonna was singing Lucky in that one or something. And it was a sort of branded version of the lyrics for their songs with a button-ended tagline. And the whole thing felt like a kind of pop video aesthetic, so it broke with the tradition of advertising. But it was more kind of aspirational than relatable. But then towards the end of the noughties, we saw some interesting collaborations that reflected brand culture over glorified endorsements and a departure from traditional media platforms. To celebrate 100 years, Converse created a music-focused campaign with the release of a track, My Drive-Thru, which was produced by Pharrell of Nerd and featured Julian Casablancas of The Strokes and Santa Gold. And the track was made available as a free music download from the Converse website. It received thousands of daily downloads, and the video clip debuted on MySpace and MTV, becoming one of the top 10 shared videos in the first day of its release, with 750,000 streams. And then jump forward to 2020 and pandemic years. Again, I'm sure everyone remembers the hashtag challenge, which was a sort of either tended to be a dance move or some sort of call to action. And they were deployed through influencers and engaged communities that were poised to mobilize. So they had the sort of start of the fan bases and committed sort of loyal fans. So Elf Cosmetics wasn't even on TikTok, but they saw that they had a collective 3.5 million views before they joined the platform. So it convinced them to create a campaign. What they actually did was they decided to create an original song using eyes, lips, face, which is Elf, obviously. And the idea for it was to bring on a Grammy Award-winning producer, Il Wayno, and a new artist who was featuring native to social, 561. I'm going to say that right, 561, a new artist from Florida. Anyway, they created what was considered the first original custom-branded track for TikTok, and it became a gateway for creating custom-branded music that was supported and elevated by TikTok, who had the TikTok charts, which soon became the gauge for trending sounds and started to become a gauge for pop culture as well. I mean, again, you might remember songs started to shorten and become more kind of 2 minutes, and they might sit alongside a pop star on the charts, but they were also pushing these sounds as well. So it was a new format. The engagement and the reach of these partnerships was unprecedented, but beyond this, they were seen as a badge of cultural credibility and integrity for brands. And I've landed on Mattel's branded knockout Barbie as the now one, kind of because it's the whole concept on steroids. Not only did our whole world turn pink, but about a bazillion brand partnerships were brokered, from Airbnb's Malibu Dream House to Barbie and Ken helping you date on Bumble. But possibly the most influential partnerships were with the artists and producer and music supervisor Mark Ronson, who with his Rolodex of hitmakers created an original soundtrack that was iconic in its own right. Not only did Dua feature in the film, but her disco dance floor hit, Dance the Night Away, was a gigantic hit, invoking a revived nostalgia for the genre, which had us disco dancing the nights away. And it had 169 million more views and 800,000 million streams on Spotify, which would have been enough for the movie to be a hit alone, let alone all the other artist partnerships that contributed to that hit, including Billie Eilish winning an Oscar for What Was I Made For?